You were born with potential. You were born with goodness and trust. You were born with ideals and dreams. You were born with greatness. You were born with wings. You were not meant for crawling, so don't. You have wings. Learn to use them and fly. So said Rumi. And I think that's a good introduction into what I want to talk about today. And what I want to talk about today is loving ourselves. Last week we talked about forgiving ourselves, and now I want to talk about loving ourselves. So, the first thing that I think I'll tell you about is a bit about my story and how I relate to how I learned to more or less love myself. I went through two periods in my life, two periods of about 2 years each, times when I was, like I've said so many times, I guess I like saying, I was lower in a snake's belly at the end of a rope, and I'd had my heart ripped out more often than some people changed their underwear. And these periods of depression, I remember quite clearly. And I remember I was so depressed because I came to actually hate myself. And I was suicidal for a lot of that time. And my self-talk was just so punishing. It really was. And, I was stuck. I was really stuck. I kind of believed, uh, and this is what I would tell myself, and this is what I would tell people, because in fact, what I was doing was I was screaming for help. I was so depressed that I was asking everybody, for help. And my story would more or less go, I've made more mistakes than anybody. I've made a complete mess out of my life. And because of that, I don't want to be around anymore. Like I would expand that. It might go a couple minutes, 5 minutes. And I honestly believed that story. I really believed it. And so I was screaming, like, what do I do? You know? And um, and I was stuck. I was really stuck. But I came to realize at one point that homicidal thoughts or suicidal thoughts are homicidal thoughts turned inward. In other words, we direct the anger that we have not towards other people, but towards ourself. And this is the kind of like the definition of depression. And that's where I was at. I was turning these thoughts, these horrible thoughts that I had, all towards myself. It was my fault. It was my fault. How could anybody be so stupid? And, I used to tell my people, because I really thought that was true. How could anybody be so blind? You know? And because now I see, but before I couldn't see. And I had to come to realize that these suicidal thoughts, which were homicidal thoughts turned inward, it was all absolute bullshit. I mean, it didn't seem that way at the time. And when I talked to people, they couldn't persuade me that, it was all bullshit. Well, some people would tell me that. They really would. Lots of people told me that, but I just didn't believe them because I believed my lies. I believed my bullshit. So I was stuck. So, anyway, which brings me to the question, how do we heal? How do we begin to love ourselves? Well, last week I described the first step, and that was forgiving ourselves. And today I want to talk about the next thing, and that's loving ourselves. And the first step in loving ourselves is awareness. We have to become aware that it's not our fault. If we feel worthless, if we feel like we don't fit in, if we feel like something is seriously wrong, if we feel like I've made more mistakes than anybody, if I feel like I'm absolutely worthless, it's not our fault. So many of us have grown up in alcoholic, dysfunctional homes, or with a parent who was a true believer, a fanatic. And so it's no wonder we were traumatized or shamed for having a brain. And that's the essence of our problem. It really is. I'd just like to read something that it was a podcast and I saw it last week, and I just want to read it to you because I think it fits in with what I'm talking about right now, and it's really brilliant. It's by an incredible woman named Shefali Tisaberi, and she wrote this. Well, she spoke it and I wrote it down. But anyway, it's, unless we understand how culture has lied to us from our birth, it's not our parents' fault because they were pawns. They were dismally unaware. It is our responsibility to release them and wake up. Everything culture tells us is a lie. The true nature of life is an illusion. So, when you begin to wake up, you see that all these systems of culture have taken away who we really are, our true identity. And that is exactly what happened to me. And, in other podcasts I go on, I've described this a lot more. But this is the essence of our addiction. And we have to wake up to reality because it's not our fault. So, whatever we did to deal with the trauma, the shame, the hurt that we carried around with, whether it was drinking, whether it was taking drugs, whether it was shopping, whether it was gambling, whether it was buying houses, whatever it was that we did to escape the pain that we carry around with us, the hurt that we carried, the unresolved shame that was, put into us when we were, growing up at a very young age. And I know this happened to me big time. And I'm so fortunate now that I've been able to connect the dots and see the relationship. But what we have to do, and I've said this before, we have to reinvent our lives. Like Shefali was saying, we have to wake up and learn to reinvent our lives. And one of the big tools in reinventing our lives is our self-talk. And I told you my story. I came out of hiding and I told you my story because I think you can see from what I said, my self-talk was just so absolutely negative. And we see, with the things we think, with the things we say to ourselves and others, we are creating our reality. We are creating our destiny by the things that we say every moment that we're alive. So just as an example, if I say, if I go around telling people, I'm an idiot, I'm an idiot, you know, well, guess what? I believe I'm an idiot. And so do other people because I'm telling people I'm an idiot, And you know people that go around saying negative self-talk. And, I did that for a long time, like I described. So the things we tell ourselves and the things we tell other people, we are creating our destiny. We're creating the person that we are by the things that we say. And what we say is a choice. It really is. I'll give you an example. I can say, I am a moron. I just said it. I chose to use that as an example to say, I am a moron. It's a choice. Or I can say, I'm a really smart person, I just amazing, all the things that I have come to, all the wisdom I've come to understand over these last few years. Now, is that true? It doesn't really matter because if I tell myself that and I tell everybody else that, that becomes my reality. That becomes who I am. Because I step up to the plate and I become that. Because that's what I believe, because that's what I'm saying to myself, that's what I'm thinking. So our thoughts change our life. And the choice we make, we either allow negative thoughts to come in and linger, and we, just go over them and over them, or we switch the tapes. We say, no, I'm going to just tell myself positive things, and you don't have to lie to yourself. You can say, look, you know, I'm going to do everything I can to become the best person I can. And today, I'm going to do everything. Now, that's positive, and it's true, you keep telling yourself, and that's what happens. Self-talk is so important. And just remember, I'm just giving you the skinny because this is the work I do. And, when I do presentations, when I do workshops, we talk about this thing and we can talk in great detail. This is just, like the 5-minute skinny on that. But I hope you get what I'm saying. But you're probably all familiar too with, there was a book and a movie a number of years ago. It was called The Secret. And that got a lot of, because it really is true. The law of attraction is we attract what we focus on. And it's kind of like the same thing that I was talking about, is about, the things we tell ourselves, about our self-talk, what we tell ourselves and we tell others, and what we think about, what we focus on. This, so the law of attraction, if we think positive thoughts about where we're going, get pumped up about life and talk about it, we attract that. I mean, it's a living principle. The universe opens up and brings to us the things that we focus on and think about. It's kind of like another example. It's like you've probably heard of vision boards, and vision boards work. They really do. And they work because, okay, another example. Say you had your heart set on this motorcycle. I mean, that's the last thing in the world I would want. But I mean, say you really wanted a motorcycle. So you got a picture of the motorcycle you wanted, the exact one, the color, and then you put it up in a place where you could see it every day, maybe 10 or 20 times. You'd walk by and your eye would catch this motorcycle. And then you told your friends, they say, "How are you doing?" "Oh, great. I'm thinking about this motorcycle, I don't have enough money yet, but I really got my eye on this motorcycle." And you think about it, guess what? Someday you're going to have that motorcycle because you're focusing on it, and you're allowing the universe to bring that to you. Your mind's thinking, how is this going to happen? And if you're passionate, you will make it work. You will have that. But if you didn't have the vision board, if you didn't have the picture, probably nothing would happen. The years would go by. So anyway, that's just the kind of like the skinny on we create our destiny by the things that we say, by the words that we use, and every moment, and what we practice goes stronger. So when you start practicing that, loving yourself and just saying good things and thinking good things about yourself, I'm doing the best I can. That's one that I use all the time. This moment, I'm doing the best that I can. And that just makes me feel so good to know that, that's all I can do. This moment, all I can do is the best that I can. And right now, that's what I'm doing. This is the best I can. And it makes me feel great, and positive. And I don't say anything different than that. I just, think, I'm always going to do the best I can that moment. Now, I'm going to make mistakes. We all make mistakes. We're all fallible, but still we pick ourselves up and say, okay, my mistake, but I'm going to do the best I can from this moment on. Anyway, just another thought that came to my mind was a number of weeks ago, I did a podcast on kind of like this subject, maybe from a different point of view, but Leonard Cohen said, act like you want to be, and soon you will be the way you act. And this is kind of very similar to what I'm talking about, is about loving ourselves, like if we act, like we want to be, and we do that on a consistent basis, you become what you act. And it's true. It's been true in my life. And if you listen to the podcast, it's kind of interesting how I learned that, but I learned it big time, and it's a real reality. So anyway, I think next week I'm going to be doing a good podcast. I think I'm going to end this now because I'm kind of said what I wanted to say, and I hope can inspire you, because what I'm saying is absolutely true. And my purpose is just to help you. To understand these things and become the person you were meant to be. And this is such an exciting journey. But next, I think it's next week, I'm going to be doing the true believer, the fanatic. And that's a big thing that brought so many of us down and continues to do so, especially today. But anyway, always question, And if anybody has any questions, or just wants to talk about some of these fascinating subjects, I'd love to meet you, and I'm available. So anyway, we'll see you next time.